In this video, guys, we're going to look at 7 bad things about being a trader. Stick around. Hey traders, warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining me. All right, so video out there somewhere, if not, it's coming up soon. 7 good things about being a trader, good things about being a trader. It talks about the obvious ones like the financial side of it, self-improvement side of it, some flexibility, but not in the way that you might think and that everyone goes, oh wow, it's great and you can do everything you want and when you want, you can take as much money as you want. Kind of a moderated real life approach to it. So go and check that out if you haven't yet. Anyway, flip side of it, 7 bad things about being a trader. So this is from a perspective of you've got through the grind. The first few years are tricky, guys. I know they are. They're hard, they're tough, you're losing money, you can't understand why, you can't figure it out, it's difficult, it's hard, it's frustrating, it makes you angry, all those other emotions, and you just feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. This is kind of from a perspective of once you're through that and you kind of feel like, hey, things are working. You know, market's been okay to me. I'm making some money. I'm keeping the money. I'm not drawing down as much. And when I am, I'm recovering. I'm putting numbers on the board. The equity curve is going in the right direction. Even when it's stagnating, I'm recovering it. All that kind of stuff that builds the confidence, builds the focus, builds the clarity and like, hey, it's doing okay. Then there's still downsides to stuff. There's still downsides. I know that these kind of bear into insignificance when you're struggling at the beginning. The downside is just, I'm losing money. I'm trying, but I'm losing money. And that is just a horrible feeling. But getting through that cloud, breaking through the kind of undergrowth, if you like, and going, right, things are working. It may not be the financial level you want yet, but things are starting to tick over. Things are starting to work. I'm dealing with the setbacks. I'm pushing forward when I can. You know, I'm disciplined now. I'm focused. All that kind of stuff. Anyway, different topic probably. Number 1, effort does not equal success. From a broad perspective, it does. If you're broadly putting effort into trading and you're saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, that I'm doing, you will get payback in the future. Unlike a lot of things, what I mean by effort doesn't equal success is that a lot of the time in other aspects or other skills, you put effort in, you put effort in, you put effort in, you prepare, you plan, you have the right tools, then you go and do whatever you're doing. And generally speaking, there's a correlation there. If you've trained hard, if you've got the right tools, if you've got the right attributes, this, that, and the other, then the chances of getting a good outcome are going to be high. Trading, you can prepare, you've done your charting, you've checked all this, you've checked that, you've checked your indicators if you're using those, you checked this, you've done risk management, blah, blah, you pull the trigger and you get stopped out. There's not a direct correlation. It's just a delayed feedback. You put in the effort, consistency, then the results come back to you. When? Who knows? But that's how it works. And that can be frustrating when you're trading, especially, obviously it's very frustrating in the beginning when you're kind of struggling, but even when you're doing okay and you're trying to take it to the next level, same thing applies. It's not instant. It's still that, now it's starting to work. But that might be 90 days after you first you've got things lined up. Number 2, gray areas. Trading, we think of it as black and white, right? We take a trade, stop or target. And if you hold it long enough, sure. But there's so many grey areas. What happens, it almost gets there, does this, it does that, does the other. And that's just from a kind of one trade perspective. Your emotions perspective, your execution perspective, market pricing perspective, all this stuff is art meets science. And yes, there are black and white things like if you're long or you're short or you're flat, that's pretty binary. You either are or you aren't. But there's so many other things of, what's my position sizings, that's flexible, how do I treat this, what do I do that? And that's really, I guess that's why we have an edge as humans in the market. That's why it works for us. But at the same time, that can become frustrating if you let it, because it's not solvable. You say, well, I don't, and then it becomes a little bit of faith, take a leap of faith in things and say, hey, things are going to work out. You don't know for certain you're going to do this. You don't know for certain, but you kind of, with that grey area, you just have to trust a little bit and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to nurture. This is, and not to go off topic, guys, but the grey area is where the profit is. That's where the juice is. If it was simple as black and white, it would have been solved by a AI ages ago, the market. There'd be no market. But the grey area is where the intuition of the human being and the stuff to where we're good at can come in. And that's something to focus on. Separate topic, but worth noting. And number 3, erratic PnL. This can be challenging. Especially if you are relying on it for income. That's why I say, hey, don't put that pressure on you straight away if you can, because it might be having some consistency, and then just the market goes stagnant. You can't force blood out of a stone. You can't just suddenly, well, I demand to make $5,000 out of this market this second. It doesn't work. The market, doesn't just give when you ask it. And so you can have periods where you just have immense P&L. You're like, wow, this is just smashing it. And it might go quiet for a bit. I mean, it might be small. It might draw down a bit, and the erratic P&L can be a challenge, especially if you were relying on that, because the way the society is set up is you've got monthly payments. And if you're relying on that trading income, then relying on it every month is not a good approach. Better off saying, right, there's my year's money. Great. Now that pays my next year. Now I want to make another year in that year, so to pay for the next year, if you're doing it that way. Anyway, I've done a video on this before, and something maybe to address at another point in time. But erratic P&L, isn't. There's certain other businesses where, and you can have consistency. Times when you maybe have years of just like, yeah, great, but not always. Not always times when it's going to be erratic. But other businesses, you almost get to a point where, let's say you've got a customer base. Yes, you might have up and down a little bit, but you're always probably, there's exceptions, probably going to be making a certain amount each month, certain amount each month. You know where you are. Number 4, uncertainty. So this is the grey area thing. I suppose the uncertainty is you just don't know when the market's going to be active. You just don't know. There's so much uncertainty there, and like I say, I frame that as a good thing, because I think that's where the edge lies. I think that's where the profit lies, if I'm honest. But it can sometimes be like, again, you put the effort in, don't get the reward straight away. You do this, do that, don't get the. You have to be at peace with that, and sometimes that's a challenge. 5, market conditions dictate performance. Big one, this. When you learn this lesson for the first time, it's a hard lesson. You're like, yeah, I'm making good money. Wow, look at me, I'm a genius. I'm like making money. Oh man, the conditions have changed. Try harder. You're not making money. What do? And when the first time you do that as a trader, there's a bit of fear comes over you. Like, well, what now? Was that it? Is that it? Is that all I'm going to do? And you have to be able to adapt, or you have to be able to step back and go, conditions aren't right, let me come back in. And that's when you've got pressure on you to perform. It's challenging, but your conditions do dictate performance. If you trade in volatility, then high volatility is going to be better performance. When the volatility is contracted, you're probably not going to do very, very well. You might even lose money. So, the same, whatever you're trading, the conditions will dictate your performance. And so you've got to just kind of align yourself with the market. Number 6, highs and lows can be extreme. They get dampened off. Euphoria from making lots of money, despair from losing lots of money. Over time, that starts to shrink a little bit. And yeah, you feel excited, and it's great to have a good month, and you don't want to have a bad month, but you kind of put it in perspective and go, all the months I've traded, this is just another one. But they can be extreme, and you've got to be able to manage that. Number 7, final one, guys, hard to switch off. I think it's a big thing for traders, because the markets are trading all the time. There's always something trading, always something to look at. You've got to be strict with it and say, hey, I'm not trading after this time. Computer goes off. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to be kind of poring over charts. I'm not going to be executing trades. Not going to be doing this. Not going to be journaling. I'm going to switch off. I guess it's the same for any entrepreneur / business owner. Hard to switch off compared to a job, but it's one of the bad things about being a trader, especially when there's all sorts of news affecting markets as well. But you've got to become good at that. Otherwise, you're just spreading yourself so thin. Your focus is all over the place, and it's not in that one singular area where you've got a good chance of making money. Anyway, guys, 7 bad things about being a trader. Take care. See you next one. Bye-bye.